Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Runde SI-Interviews. Sie sehen es, eine neue Company ist wieder ein Startinterview. Ich kenne die Firma nicht, daher kann ich auch noch nicht sagen, wie gut oder wie gut sie mir gefällt, ob ich danach dann die Aktien gleich kaufe oder nicht. Das erfahren wir dann meistens am Ende, beziehungsweise dann, wenn ich es in der regulären Ausgabe nochmals bringe. Ganz spannende Company, ganz was anderes, nichts mit Rohstoffe zu tun. ProStar Holdings, also sagt noch nicht wirklich viel aus, aber Star ist schon mal drinnen, also klingt schon mal spannend. Und bei mir ist der Paige Tucker, CEO und President, und wird uns die Company mal kurz vorstellen. Paige, thank you for your time. I said in my German introduction, I have no clue about your company. But we are here to get more information from you. So maybe you can give us a rough overview from your company, what you're doing, and what is the idea behind the company.
Sure. So ProStar is a world leader in the development of precision mapping solutions. We are a cloud and mobile technology software company. We offer our solution as software as a service, so we're SaaS. And our system is designed to capture, record, and display the precise location of infrastructure, including subsurface infrastructure that includes utility lines and pipelines.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That sounds very interesting, very. But can you give me an example that I understand better what you're really doing?
Absolutely. For example, major utilities are becoming a serious problem, not only in North America, but throughout the world. A large majority of what we call the subsurface infrastructure, which includes your utility lines like water systems, gas systems, power, also petroleum. A lot of that infrastructure was put into the ground anywhere between 50 to 60 years ago. Some water systems, especially in Europe, can go back 150 years. It's common knowledge that our surface infrastructure, like our roads and our bridges and our highways, are becoming dilapidated, in serious need of repair and replacement. But we also have the same issue with things that are buried below the ground. The difference is they're out of sight, so they're out of mind. We don't know when there's a problem or an issue, normally until it's too late. Either we have power outages, maybe the neighborhood is flooding, maybe we're not getting internet into our homes, or our businesses, or fiber optic cables have been severed, so critical data is not coming, to our hospitals or our universities. So what ProStar does is we've designed a system that can capture, record, and display the precise location of where those utilities are buried below the ground. And we actually provide that information on standard mobile devices. So basically, we provide the ability to see what's buried below the ground.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I showed my people now your presentation, and I think it's on page 7, and you see some pictures where hundreds of different things are running in I think this is a street or something, with water, wastewater, I think, and everything from the other stuff. But how you can track all these different things? They are so running across each other. That's nearly impossible to see which line is what.
Yeah, the way I always explain it is that if you gave the surface of the earth, our roadway systems, a lobotomy, you would see that buried below those roadways is a spaghetti bowl of utilities. As you mentioned, they crisscross each other, they're stacked up on top of each other. Just to put things in relevant terms, in the United States, we have 2.4 million miles of paved roads. And the majority of utilities and pipelines are buried below those paved roads. There's 35 million miles of buried utilities. So the amount of paved roads pales in comparison to the amount of utility lines that are buried below those paved roads.
Mm-hmm.
There's processes today where, and this is common throughout Europe and North America, where utility companies will go out and they use what's called cable and pipe locate devices, where they can actually locate the majority of utility lines, and then they put paint marks down to identify where those lines are prior to construction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, what we do is, and in many ways, this is pretty simple, but we've been doing this for years now, and we managed to become experts at this. What we do is we designed a software that compare the locate tool utilizing Bluetooth technology to a standard mobile device, either a phone or a tablet, and then we pair that to precision GPS receivers. So not the receiver that's in your mobile device, which may be accurate 1 to 3 meters, precision GPS receivers that can get down to the centimeter. And then we provide that information in real time up to the cloud and make that information readily available to everyone that needs that information so they can make a better business decision out on the project work site. And all of this happens in less than a second. It's real time. Mm-hmm. So that's the unique value proposition that we offer, is not only the ability to identify precisely where these utility lines are buried, but share that information in real time to all of the stakeholders that need that information. So it could be engineering and surveying crews, could be the excavating crew that's getting ready to dig. Historically, that information goes through very onerous and antiquated workflow processes. And by the time the information gets back out to the field, sometimes that can take a couple days, sometimes it can take a couple weeks. What we're doing is real time. Mm-hmm. So everyone has that information available where and when they need it.
So, but for my better understanding, the question is that you have all this information into the system. So that you get all this information to your system is that somebody running around and track this or make this, identify all this utility stuff, or is this correct?
No, so utility companies generally have information of where their utilities are buried below the ground, mm-hmm. but they're based on what's called as-built drawings, which are the initial design drawings of where those utilities should be placed into the ground. The challenge is that in the real world, when you go to install the utilities, there's all types of conditions that might affect where you actually place them into the ground. Mm-hmm. For example, soil conditions. You're supposed to put a gas line at a minimum of about 2 meters into the ground, but the contractor will place it into the ground based on path of least resistance. Often that includes putting it on the other side of the road because maybe there's already an open corridor mm-hmm. there, mm-hmm. or maybe only burying it at 1 meter just because the soil conditions are just too hard, and it's all based mm-hmm. on time, so he wants to get it done quickly and as efficiently as possible. But the key is that information is not accurate, not with any level of confidence as far as its geospatial location, including XY, which is the surface location, and the Z, meaning how deep is it into the ground. So what we're doing is we can take the existing information that they have on record and we stream that out onto the mobile devices, so they can see where they think their utility lines are buried. Mm-hmm. But when they're actually locating where the utility is buried, we're capturing the precise location, including the depth of cover, how many satellites are in view, so you know the confidence level and the quality of the data that you're collecting. And about 90% of the time, you can see a discrepancy between where the utility owner thinks their line is mm-hmm. and where it's actually located. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it can be off by a couple meters. Sometimes it can be off by several meters. Mm-hmm. And as you're collecting the data utilizing our technology, you can actually push that data back to the system of record where the utility owner stores their data. Normally it's in a GIS or a CAD system. And then they can rectify and update their records so mm-hmm. that they can make better decisions in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand the business idea behind, and I think this is really a great one. But how you can make now out of this system or this idea? Money. So what is your business strategy to monetize this system?
So it's actually pretty simple. So we have three main products. As I mentioned, these are offered on a subscription base.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our product, which is called Point Man. That's our flagship product. And it's a mobile and cloud technology.
Mm-hmm.
So you can buy just the mobile Point Man, which means you can collect, capture, and record, and even share the utility data from the mobile device. And we sell that for $495 US. And we have hundreds and hundreds of subscribers that utilize that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because the mobile device is limited, because all the data is stored local on the device, you have limitations on how much data you can store on it. Now, you can export the data into a GIS system or a CAD system or even onto Google Earth, but it still has limitations. So then we have another version, which is the cloud version, which is unlimited storage in the cloud running on AWS. That version, we charge $2,495 per user. And then we have a third solution, which is enterprise, because we have a lot of clients that require, hundreds of users. So when you get to the enterprise level, then we negotiate terms based on, a large amount of users that they have, because then they get price discounts based on having so many users, and we call that enterprise.
And you say you have from this Pinkman, you have hundreds of people are already, hundreds of devices are in the market.
Yeah, in fact, there's thousands. We also have a free version.
Okay.
That's on Google Play and also available on the Apple Store. So anyone anywhere in the world can go, say, for example, to the Apple Store, look up Point Man. They can download the app and they can use it for free.
Yeah, and if I understand you right, so if they have or find something and say, okay, this is the location from this and this device, you share it automatically with you. So your database is going bigger and bigger and bigger, better and better and better, with all the people that they use your software tool.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now keep in mind, the one thing that we make it very clear is, we'll store and manage the data, but we don't own the data. It's not our data, it's the client's data, which is very important because the utility owners are very sensitive about their data. And we want to make it clear that it's their data. We just manage it, and we provide the ability that it can be shared with stakeholders that need that information, and we can do so on a very secure basis. In fact, we just received for the third year in a row here in the United States what we call SOC compliance, which is the highest level of data security that you can attain.
Okay. Okay, this is where your business is run, so that you sell this the Point Man to thousands of people and the Point Man Pro to the companies, and this is the revenue stream. What is your or what you get?
Correct.
So, what is the expectation then? What would, as a shareholder of the company, what can we expect from the company on the revenue base and so on?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, for example, I mentioned Point Man Pro, and we just introduced Point Man Pro last week. It was in development for over 2 years, and I'll tell you why. So the mobile app that we sell for $495, as I mentioned, has limitations on how much data you can store on the device. And then we had the enterprise level solution, which started at $150,000 per year. So that was for very, very, large companies that could afford to allocate, that type of capital to this type of solution. Ideally, what we wanted to do is make this readily available to everyone. regardless of the size of the company. So the goal was to build a mobile application that came with the cloud enterprise platform. So you could buy one app and have the back-end enterprise solution. It had never been done before. And it took us 2 years to develop it, cost us several millions of dollars, and we just completed it, and we just commercially introduced it to the market last week. I even put out a press release.
Mm-hmm.
In my business plan, the way it is right now, and I like to be somewhat conservative, because what you want to do is under promise and over deliver.
Absolutely.
In there,
Number
I
one.
have over 5 years, I'm estimating that we can sell 5,000 of these apps at $24.95, $2,495 US. If someone said, what's the blue sky? What's the possibility? I think we can sell 50,000 of them, 100,000. I think there's even the opportunity we can sell 1 million of them worldwide, because this is such a disruptive technology, and this is such a big global problem that we're addressing that, I think the sky's the limit. And what's important is, number one, we start to see early adoption by what we call influencers. And right now in the United States, since I brought this product out, we're in discussions right now with Fortune 500 companies, the largest utility companies, very large multinational fiber optic companies, and some of the largest engineering and surveying firms that specialize in identifying, where buried utilities are throughout North America. So we're starting to see that adoption. So the future looks pretty bright for us, and particularly in 2021, I think we're going to start to see widespread adoption.
Mm-hmm. Coming to the, do you have any patents on it, or how technology works behind?
Yeah, that's a great question again. Yes, we do have patents. In fact, we have 19 issued patents, and I'm expecting the 20th to be issued within the next 60 days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And those patents basically cover the methods required to do precisely what I mentioned: capture, record, and display buried utilities on mobile devices, and to be able to manage that data in the cloud.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Do you have any bigger partner companies you work with?
Yes, we do. And in fact, our business partners continues to grow and expand, because this area of what we call subsurface utility engineering and identifying where utilities are buried below the ground is becoming a big industry. And projections are it's going to grow exponentially, particularly over the next 10 years. Because as you know, in particular here in the United States, there's a big focus on infrastructure. Right now, the White House and the current administration is talking about spending up to $2 trillion to address the serious problem that we have with our roads, bridges, and highways. They're also looking at addressing water systems, and also expanding on broadband. Well, anytime you have construction above ground and below ground, there's a high probability that you're going to hit buried utilities and cause damages. So a lot of big companies are now starting to look into this area. So one of our biggest partners is Trimble. Trimble is the world's leader in geospatial technologies. They trade on the NASDAQ. Their market cap ranges anywhere between 17 to 19 billion. But we've partnered with Trimble. We have the highest level of integration into their GPS and GNSS receivers. And those receivers are what allow us to capture the data with that level of geospatial precision, including down to the centimeter. We've also partnered with other major GPS and GNS receivers manufacturers, but also the locate tool manufacturers. So like radio detection, which is actually based out of the UK, Vivex, Metrotech, Subsite. These are the companies that build the devices that actually allow us to identify where those utilities are buried below the ground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I look a little bit to your share structure, and you have around 120 million shares, roughly fully diluted. So that's mean your market cap is with the share price of 78 Canadian dollars, that's around 90 million Canadian. So if this so a big business, why, for example, Trimble not coming to you and say, I take you? Is this a possible scenario?
Oh, I think it's always a possible scenario that there's the potential for merger and acquisition opportunities. As the CEO and founder of the company, right now I have no interest in a merger and acquisition because I'm very confident that we'll be able to execute on our business plan and continue to increase share price. And I think our market cap can be significantly higher if in fact we do execute, which I fully plan on executing. And I think over the next few months, you'll see that we are executing and that we are attaining the milestones that we're projecting.
Mm-hmm. Milestone. That's a good point. So what do you expect for this year or end of the year? How many devices are out, revenue size, and so on?
So again, I try to be somewhat conservative. My goal is I'd like to bring on an additional half a dozen enterprise clients. So that could be like a very large construction company, a big engineering surveying firm. It could be another state, and I can kind of elaborate on that. But one of our clients is actually the state of Colorado, and they recently mandated our solution here in our state. So big entities, government agencies, construction companies. My goal would be to bring on a half a dozen of those type of clients. With PointMan Pro, because it's relatively new, I'd be happy if we brought on 400 new users for PointMan Pro.
Okay.
And then for just the PointMan standalone, which is $495, I expect to see sales of somewhere between 500 to 1,000 new users. The nice thing about selling the PointMan for $495 is those are kind of like hand raisers. If they're using that application, then they're a target to upgrade to the PointMan Pro. And if PointMan Pro, if it gets to the point where we have widespread use throughout the organization, then we can upsell them to enterprise.
Mm-hmm. So that means you have, if I calculate, 3, 4, 5 million on revenue this year. Is this possible?
The target is 3 million. 3
Okay.
million Canadian. We're a Canadian company,
Yeah.
so I do everything in Canadian dollars. But yeah, my goal is to do about $3 million in revenue Canadian, and I feel pretty confident that we'll do that.
What is the burn rate? What you have? So monthly burn rate or quarterly burn rate? Are you still with the 3 million? Are you break even?
No, our goal is to reach cash flow positive status by the middle of next year.
Okay.
I think we're on track for that. Obviously, you never know. Things like COVID could pop up.
Yeah.
But no, I think that now that we're starting to see this adoption, and also infrastructure is becoming such a big buzzword, if you will, in the market, I think that we'll attain our milestones. But to answer your question, our burn right now is about $250,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
We have $4 million in cash on reserve in the treasury. So we should have enough to attain our goals as long as we execute.
Okay. Okay, come back to the shareholder structure. Are there any groups, there are bigger groups, they are invested in your companies? Or what are the biggest groups in the companies?
So about 30% of the shares are retained by current key management. And then, no, it's fairly widespread. When I went out to do the large raise, which I just completed last year, prior to our listing, I worked with a couple major banks here, which was Canaccord and Haywood. And so, no, our investment is fairly widespread once you get outside the 30% that is retained by management.
What was the last private placement round or the IPO round?
Well, the IPO round was based at 40 cents.
Okay.
And then I recently did another raise that was private with a large investment group, actually out of London. And we did that at 70 cents.
Okay, 70 cents. So that is close to the share price what we have at the moment. At the moment,
Correct.
we are 75. Yesterday was 78. Okay. So, okay, close on these numbers.
Yep.
So, okay, very interesting story. But this is my last question. What you think are the major 3 news what we can expect in the next 3 to 6, 9 months from your company?
Well, number one is we just came out of testing PointMan Pro with what we call trusted testers. These are large subsurface utility engineering firms that have offices throughout the United States, Canada, and several of them with locations throughout North America. And they tested it because it's really, when you have something that's this disruptive, and this is a disruptive technology, this completely changes workflow processes that have been in place in the construction industry for up to 25 years. It's very difficult for people to comprehend and believe that we can identify where anything is down to the centimeter on a standard mobile device and make that information available in real time, meaning we're doing a lot of the calculations and algorithms that are required up in the cloud that normally take, as I mentioned, onerous workflow processes to be able to attain the same result. So we had these engineering firms test this product for over 120 days and then realize that it actually works. The comparison I like to use, and it was funny because I was one of the late adopters, where I used to use the taxi everywhere I went. Everywhere I went, I used the taxi. I've been doing it for 30 or 40 years. I'm used to standing out in the rain, and I'm used to them being late, and I'm used to them not showing up. And then you call and you say, when's the taxi coming? And then Uber came along on a mobile app, and anybody could be a taxi driver. I don't mind telling you, I was one of the first ones to say that would never work. I probably wouldn't have invested in Uber. I'm one of these dummies. I'll be like, there's no way you can do that. There's no way you're going to replace all these taxi companies. And by the way, the insurance companies will never accept it. Well, boy, was I wrong. Well, if you look at Uber, really all that is a mobile app that integrates cloud and mobile technology utilizing GPS. Airbnb, the exact same thing. That's a mobile app that leverages cloud and mobile technology and GPS technology. So what we're doing is we're disrupting the construction industry and business practices that have been in place for over 25 years with a simple mobile app. We're starting to see that adoption, and we're seeing adoption. For example, one of our clients is the largest infrastructure construction company in North America. They're a Fortune 500 company. They're a major influencer, and now they're starting to push it out into multiple infrastructure projects. Well, when they start doing that, it sends a ripple effect throughout the industry. For example, like the construction companies not only start using it, but they have multiple suppliers like engineering and surveying firms, the companies that are out there collecting the data, all their subcontractors, they start seeing it and they're like, we better start using this as well. The large engineering and surveying firms, the fact that they're adopting this now sets the precedence and lets people know with credibility that this works. And it significantly saves them money and time, cuts down on all their workflow processes, makes their job so much easier. They don't need a whole bunch of training to utilize our system. And then the fact, as I mentioned, our system was recently mandated in the state of Colorado, so that every utility company, municipality, the construction companies, excavating companies, engineering and surveying firms, if these utilities are on the state right away, then they have to use our system to identify precisely where they are and provide that information back to the state. This is the first state that has mandated this sort of technology and put in place these type of regulations and laws. Now other states are taking a look at what we're doing, and we're getting calls from multiple other states in the US where now we're in discussion with them about adopting our solution. We've even been in discussion with countries in Europe that want to do the same thing. So, countries are also looking at the same thing where they want to set up a centralized database where everybody can share all their data, regardless of what state it is. And then as that data is updated and continuously gets better and better, that information is readily available to the stakeholders that need that information so they can make better decisions. Because when you hit these utility lines, bad things can happen. As I mentioned, important information doesn't get to its destination, be it a school or a hospital or a university. It can shut down the internet, so we don't have access to the internet. You hit a petroleum line, it can leak these gases, if you will, into our water systems, into lakes, into rivers, into oceans. We're all familiar with this. But if you hit a high pressure gas line, it can be devastating. It can cause an explosion that can damage buildings and houses. It can put the public and the worker in harm's way. And I would argue that in far too many instances, based on the technologies that we have today, there's far too many people that are suffering severe injuries as a result of this. And in some cases, there's death. So what I expect this year is to see a upward trajectory on the adoption of our technology. And the more people that start to use it and the more companies that start to use it, then I think we're going to see that trajectory at some point seriously ramp up.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree with you. It was a great summary, I must say. And we are now over 30 minutes. Paige, thank you for the first introduction to your company, and hopefully we can do another round of an interview maybe in 3 or 6 months, so that maybe new contracts are coming up or new states coming up. That is really a great thing, and I understand this from the state standpoint that I will have this information and I will share this with all the stakeholders, and they need the information, and it's make the life easier. It's really a very interesting thing.
Well, I really appreciate your time and interest in ProStar, and I agree. I'd love to do a follow-up in 6 months. I like my shareholders to hold my feet to the fire and see if I actually am delivering on the milestones that I project. And I think you'll see that I'll have done just that.
Great. That's also a good endpoint. Paige, thank you for the interview. Ja, das war jetzt ein sehr, sehr interessantes Startinterview. Worum geht es? Sie kennen das, ich habe da vorher ein schönes Foto gefunden. Es gibt unter der Straße viele Leitungen. Das wissen wir überall. Wasserleitung, Internetleitung, Gasleitungen, der Kanal, alles läuft da drunter. Er hat da ein paar schöne Fotos, das ist typisch Amerika, da schaut es so aus. Und die alle wissen nicht, wo ihre Rohre tatsächlich sind. Und wenn dort irgendwas passiert, dann muss das aufgebaggert werden. Und wenn man das aufbaggert, dann passieren teilweise Unfälle, dann erwischt man das falsche Rohr, keiner weiß, wo es genau liegt. So, was haben Sie? Sie haben eine mobile App, die quasi, wo die Firma das eintragen kann, wo sie welche Leitungen laufen, Zentimeter genau. Das wird ins Internet hochgeladen über die Cloud, dort automatisch den Unternehmen bzw. auch der Stadt oder sogar den Bundesstaat zur Verfügung gestellt, und die wissen gar nicht, dort wird es dann auch gespeichert, und das macht sozusagen es easier für den Nächsten, dass er diese Informationen nutzen kann. Wenn dann einer halt weiß, okay, ich brauche die Internetleitung oder das Glasfaserleitung oder sonst irgendwo, dann weiß er, aha, das liegt genau dort und das kann er Zentimeter genau bestimmen. Das ist der Punkt. So, die Daten sind natürlich immer nur so gut auch das System gewartet wird. Und das ist eigentlich das Spannende daran. Sie haben quasi so eine Internet-Version oder Handy-Version, Mobile-Version, das ist der Pointman. Ein System heißt generell Pointman, und dort wird das quasi erfasst. Sie arbeiten auch mit verschiedenen Firmen zusammen, die auch teilweise diese Geräte herstellen. Damit kann man die Daten leichter natürlich übernehmen, und das, wie gesagt, das Thema ist, dass es sehr, sehr genau ist, zentimetergenau. So, und je genauer das natürlich ist und je mehr Daten natürlich drinnen ist, umso mehr Informationen sind natürlich, umso nützlicher ist es. So, und dieser Appointment ist sehr billig, der kostet $495 jährlich, und dann gibt es allerdings die Appointment Pro, die haben es jetzt erst eingeführt letzte Woche, und dann gibt es natürlich die Enterprise Software für Firmen, große Konstruktionsfirmen. So, was aber wirklich spannend ist, und das hat er ihm zum Schluss gesagt, der Staat California, it was State California, Page, it was State California where you use your system.
That mandated it?
Yeah.
Colorado.
Colorado.
Ja.
Colorado hat als erster Staat jetzt gesagt, ja, wir wollen das Colorado nutzen, als ganzer Bundesstaat, und jeder, der dort quasi so serviciert, muss eigentlich das System verwenden, damit nämlich die Daten dann über die Zeit natürlich sehr genau werden, und das kann dann jeder nutzen, ob das jetzt dann dementsprechend die Wasserversorgung ist, Internetversorgung ist, Gasversorgung, Wastewater oder sonst irgendwas, und damit wird das System natürlich in ein paar Jahren sensationell genau laufen. Und das ist ja ein Revenue-Modell. Es ist nicht wirklich richtig teuer für die Firmen. Es ist sehr handlich, weil jeder hat ein Handy mit, kann das dementsprechend auch mittracken. Und dadurch können natürlich viele potenzielle Unfälle verhindert werden. Ich meine, schauen Sie nur selber um, dann, wenn die irgendwelche Arbeiten haben, die erledigt werden muss, weil irgendein Wasserrohrbruch ist, was ist dann meistens irgendwo, zerstören sie andere Leitungen auch noch, ob das jetzt die Telefonleitung ist, ob das eine Stromleitung ist oder sonst irgendwas, das geht relativ schnell, und dann sitzen sie einmal 6 Stunden ohne Strom da. Das will natürlich keiner, und das System verhindert das. Sie sind noch eine relativ junge Firma, haben 117 Millionen Aktien draußen, aktuelle Aktienkurse 75 Cent, das heißt, wir sind jetzt fully diluted natürlich, wir sind ungefähr bei einer Marktkapitalisierung, sage ich einmal, von, sagen wir, 90 Millionen Kann-Dollar, 3 Millionen Umsatz erwartet er in diesem Jahr, die eine Burn Rate ist ungefähr $250.000 pro Monat, das heißt 3 Millionen aufs Jahr. Er rechnet, dass er Cashflow positiv ist Mitte nächsten Jahres, und er hat ein paar Vergleiche gezogen mit Uber oder mit Airbnb, und das stimmt, eigentlich ist es genau dasselbe. Sie sind halt einfach ein System, das sich halt auf diese Leitungen konzentriert haben, auf diese Leitungen, die im Boden verbaut worden sind, großteils unter Straßen. Da kommt natürlich dann das große Infrastrukturprogramm auf den Plan, das jetzt die US-Regierung startet, dass die quasi dort die ganze Infrastruktur erneuert, und da ist natürlich das perfekt, wenn das mit ausgerollt wird. Und ich glaube, dass früher oder später dann irgendeine Firma herkommt und wird das einfach schlucken. Deswegen habe ich auch gesagt, sie haben auch industrielle Partner. Wenn ich mir so Trimble anschaue, dieser 20 Milliarden Dollar Company, die schlucken das, ja, da brauchen sie nicht einmal eine Finanzierung dafür, weil das haben sie ins Cash liegen. Das ist extrem interessant. Sie sind noch nicht so, dass sie jetzt dort über den Berg sind und wie eine Rakete starten. Nee, da sind wir nur am Anfang, aber wenn es eine kritische Masse erzielt an Kunden, dann ist das nicht mehr zum Aufhalten, und das ist sowas, wie ich gesagt habe, das ist so ein super Hotstock. Das kann ein super Hotstock sein, der einfach durch die Decke geht, und da muss man sich fast ein paar Stücke reinlegen, weil die Story einfach fast zu gut klingt. Ich schaue mir nur mal die Daten an, werde das auch im nächsten SC dann dementsprechend bearbeiten. So, das war es, ein extra langes Interview vom ProStar. Page Tucker war der CEO und hat die Company uns vorgestellt. Heute ist der 6. April 2021, und ich wünsche Ihnen noch einen schönen Abend. Page, thank you for your time. Really a very interesting interview. Very interesting story. So you're really you have a very interesting business model, and it can be huge, I must say.
I do appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you, and have a nice day. And hopefully in 3-6 months, or when you're coming up with very interesting news, send me a short message. We do a new interview.
I certainly will. Keep an eye on us because we have lots
Absolutely.
of news.
Maybe not only I.
That's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.